possible for another upset. In the bottom right, we have the blue Zerg player, the GOAT. He is Ence's Serral.
And in the top left here, China's #1 player, as he has been for several seasons now from Kaiser Gaming. This is Time. I gotta say, when Serral was playing Clem the other day, he looked a little bit sort of flabbergasted as to what to do in a couple of those games, which is not something I'm used to seeing from Serral. I don't expect a repeat of that series, and obviously a really cool result from Clem. Of course, we're talking about the European finals for DreamHack Winter. But it's interesting to see Serral struggle against, honestly, like a pretty normal unit comp from Terran, and sort of like, I remember Roddy was casting that one. He was sort of like, a little bit flabbergasted as to why Serral was sort of getting every single tech structure, putting a lot of eggs into different baskets, and not really committing to anything in particular, seeing a little bit of indecisiveness, that sort of thing. Not the Serral that we know. Kind of expecting here, considering we're in the round of 8. This is business time. This is elimination now, where we have no losers bracket. It's going to be for all business here from our Finnish phenom.
Yeah, and I'm really, really excited to see any time that we get to watch Serral play. I think one of the reasons why he's won people over and has been so successful as we talk is just that he is not a one trick of any kind. Serral did not earn and reach the level of respect that he has attained by Roacher Ravager rushing, right? Like, it's not like he's been doing some weird wonky stuff. He's been a player that's been flexible. He's been adaptive. And he set a new standard for how you, especially harassing like Terran players, particularly in this matchup. Like they ruined the lives of all the Terran players in Europe, Serral and Raynor, with how well they do at punishing players who try to move out, try to get stuff done. He's already got the drone out there ready to take that third base while Times Reaper comes in. So seeking and creating opportunities has been the hallmark, I think, of the new European Zerg style that, only 2 players are really good enough to do at the highest level to keep winning everything. And I only say that because they keep winning for the most part everything. But that's not to say, Maynard, that can't change, because in that European final we did get to see a Terran hero topple Raynor. So maybe there's a little bit of a brain trust out there on the Terran side of things, people figuring out different ways to try and do certain things, and perhaps this is going to be the beginning of a turnabout. We'll have to see. But personally, I still like Serral a lot. I think, maybe doesn't have quite the hot stock price that everybody was talking about a year or 2 ago, but he is still up there, duking it out with the best of the best. And I mean, even Neeb's like, I just expect to play Serral. He clearly doesn't think that Time is going to be the next opponent for him.
Serral is really respecting Time at the start of this game, by the way, at the start of the series even. Going, not a ton of Zergs at the moment want to spend money on that Overlord speed on Pneumatized Carapace. They're just like, it's fine, just get Ling speed, save that 100 gas for a rainy day, or even pull out of gas and just really inject that mineral income to make sure that my drone count and a third base is all timely fashion. Serral's going to invest that little bit more just because Time could potentially pull a fast one. This guy is a little bit tricky. We are seeing a Tech Lab starport making a medevac here, and that is definitely not normal. So Time is going to try and ferry units into the drone line here of Serral, but looks like he's kind of, obviously he's expecting an air unit with the Overlord going over the starport, seeing it's in production. Oh, and that's the armory, Nate. And Time's hand has been shown.
Yes, we're gonna see some Hellbats. We got obviously the Widow Mines are going to benefit from this greatly too. It could turn into a dual prong attack at some point with that type of play. And this has become actually pretty popular, right? I think one of the first times I saw someone do this and do it very well was TY in GSL, and he was doing the crazy amounts of the mine drops, using some Hellbats with that as well. You're kind of creating a dual prong pressure as those Hellions are making their way towards the third. And here's those mines. And the big thing to keep in mind, of course, is that if these mines can spread out, be annoying, you don't have a lair, you have to reposition your overseers to get detection to deal with them, because once that armory is done, the Widow Mines are no longer going to be visible after they shoot. So you need to have that detection. And there's the Hellbats poking out the third, trying to keep the Queens away from those drones, but only 5 of them so far detonated by the mines.
And, you know, you might look at this and go, oh, that's a good bit of drone damage there, but keep in mind that that was not free for time. His Widow Mines are expensive, relatively, and it did cost him a fair bit to invest into not only the Widow Mines, but also the Armory as well, which isn't super useful at the moment. He's going for Blue Flame as a follow-up as well. So this is interesting from time. Definitely not meta, definitely very different. And this is potentially something that that someone like Serral is going to have a hard time with, because this isn't something that a lot of people on the European ladder are doing right now.
Yeah. I'm gonna say one little meme here. If you turn that Hellion into a Hellbat, the Medivac will heal it rather than just repairing it. But he doesn't. Obviously, you've only got so much time to do stuff. He's got the Liberator getting 2 drone picks in the main base. I do like seeing this. Continue to use that Liberator harass, try to stop the gas mining as much as possible, keep the pressure on. But it's kind of a weird, deceptive sort of array that he showed Serral, because the Overlord went through. I think you might have seen the Tech Lab spinning on the barracks and the engineering base, because it looks like it's very much still going to be a bio build. But he got a second factory super early with that Blue Flame research, which definitely can have the side effect of, you know, if your opponent isn't paying careful attention with their scout, that you're like, oh my god, yeah, no, I'm really not 100% there. So here's the Hellbat drop. I don't see any Banelings over here. And with Blue Flame done, Lings are not going to clean this up. Not very easily at all.
Aren't. Yeah, this is going to be a little bit annoying for Serral, and his Banelings are actually under threat now as the Hellbats get on top of them. The Queens really need to start pulling their weight here. There's not that many of them, though. Their DPS so low against these Hellbats. I mean, the Medivac is gone, so they're going to be not checking out of the main base alive. They will go down eventually. He's denied mining time here, but hasn't killed a ton of probes, hasn't killed a ton of Zerg. Oh, hold that thought. Time coming back with another payload here over the 3rd hatchery. Meanwhile, behind all this, he's getting Drilling Claws, he's getting 1-1, he's getting Stim about to finish here for a bio transition into 2nd and 3rd barracks. This is such a weird build from time, and I gotta say, like, I don't know if it's working yet. It feels like Serral's still fine.
Yeah, I'm seeing where you're coming from. He's, I mean, Time's going to be able to get his Drilling Claws pretty quickly with this. The Armory being done means that 1-1, which is actually still quite early, considering that Carapace only just began for Serral. Like, there are definitely some things that are still working in his favor in regards to the upgrades. He's got the 3rd base secure during all of that. But then we're going to reach that next phase of Serral VT, where these mutas are going to come out. And as Time tries to move out with a larger force and has that 3rd exposed, the Lings are going to be a problem. But Maynard actually makes me think that this is like some big brain 300 IQ play out of Time to have Blue Flame Hellions in any capacity, because that is really what Serral and Raynor lean very heavily on, is overwhelming you with lots of Lings, those big backstabs. But if you give yourself access to Blue Flame Hellions in the early game and you have the, you know, a little bit more of a mobile defense force, then it's not going to be as simple as, oh yeah, I'm just going to run 30 Lings and surround your 10 Marines. But like, well, no, if there's some Hellions mixed into this army or a Hellbat left at home, then you can still do a lot. And obviously, once the Widow Mines count continues to increase, that's only going to be a bigger and bigger problem for Serral to deal with.
He's doing a very good job with these mines, though, breaking off those Lings and not getting any huge value connections. Oh, Serral's like, wait. Let's break that lock on and come on back in, reset that timer. Serral, again, did have a bit of trouble with Clem's Widow Mine Bioforce, but so far, so good from Serral at the moment. His drones took some hits, but he's at that lovely 80 drone economy at the moment, about to overtake that. And he is at that like you mentioned, that really sort of Ling, Bane, Muta comfort zone here that Serral and Raynor love to be in. I mean, obviously, things like Blue Flame Hellions and Widow Mines with Drilling Claws are, on paper, meant to be the counter to that, right? With Bio as well. They're meant to be the counter to that. But it does matter how you use it. It's not just the tools, it's the handyman as well. So can Time actually get the value against this Unicomp of Serral with the correct pieces on the board? At the moment, these Widow Mines just seem to be finding no value.
That's the hardest part about dealing with this, too, is that the unit control is also always going to be top-notch from Serral. So your build might look good, your position might seem nice, but eventually you're going to have to try and do something, right? You're going to have to try and make that push and get some damage done against the Zerg player. Widow Mine only chunks out a few of the Lings running outside that 4th base position, as they seem to be headed towards the natural. And the Hellions and the Marines are going to have to come up and chase. And this is the thing, even though, as we were saying, like, he's got stuff to deal with this. The Lings won't kill a lot. He's forcing some stims out, keeping the army at home, and like buying Serral time to continue to spread the creep. But that is why I like having those Blue Flame Hellions. I'm glad he didn't throw them away, because defending against a lot of Lings, it's one of the most cost-effective units that you can use that also won't damage your own. But if that muta count gets too high, then and this game turns into something else entirely.
You are not wrong. Muta is a very important unit in this matchup right now for very good reasons, and also in the right hands. That turret gets burned down. That third base is all but forfeit here, and Time needs to evacuate it. Now, there is 2-2 finished here for Time. Oh, Serral maybe sticking around a little bit too long with these Mutas. It's a lot of Marines there, but he kills 15 SCVs, so definitely found a lot of value in those Mutas, still looking relatively healthy. Thor trying to chase them down, but Serral's like, you know what? I'm going to take the scenic route, just going to fly through the main base on my way out of here. Take another 6 SCV kills.
Just remember, Maynard, if you ever build more than one missile turret within one screen of another one, you are an absolute garbage, awful Terran player, and you should never do that.
No, you're absolutely right.
Let the Mutas, let Mutas in your life. It's so inefficient. It's so inefficient. He's going to start to spread these mines out on top of the ramp as the Bane train rolls into the third, and some of these SCVs are going to be able to get away. But he's like, okay, well, now I can go to your other base, and let's see how well you can defend against this as the Scream will turn to a giant blur with so many Banelings running around on creep. 9 SCVs killed. The Hellbats trying to soak up a little bit of that towards the front, and Serral's going to try and clean up this attack that is making its way over. The Marines are doing their best to split, but there's a lot of Zerg here. Is there enough to clear the rest of this out? That one Thor is quite annoying, but without too much support, it won't be able to hold the door. GG, Serral takes game number 1.
He certainly does. I mean, when you get 2-2 done and you got that double upgrade lead as a Terran and a good number of Widowmines, normally you can make something happen, but it's so tough when someone has that much creep, when they've done that much to your economy, and then at that point it becomes an all-in. It just becomes so much less comfortable as a Terran to be in that situation where you don't really have a plan B because of those Mutas finding that critical damage in the mineral lines. And as that honestly, game 1 there was kind of exactly what I expected from Serral. It's just a comfortable slide into Ling Bane Muta and just dominating the game after it reached a certain point. Time tried something weird. He threw something at the wall, but unfortunately it did not stick. It slid down like a pickle on a window. It just slid on down to the ground. Did not get what he wanted out of that. Like, that's such an expensive thing to go early armory, William Mines, you know, with the drop, with the medevacs, that sort of thing. He was doing an all right job keeping the medevacs alive, of course, but each Widow Mine is deceptively expensive, Nate, as I'm sure you'll agree.
Yes. Especially in the early game, you're committing a lot. Like, those first units that you're getting out of your factory, your starport, they have to be impactful if you're going to do that. Otherwise, you know, you do the Hero Marine build and you take your third command center at 3 minutes, because that's going to be the long. You want to play the long game, you play the long game. You want to play the short game, you better draw blood out of a guy like Serral, because he gets to wipe the sweat off his brow, if there ever was any to begin with. Holding that first push is like, hey, killed 5 drones. I lost 5 drones in the first 10 minutes of this game. The drones all ran away when the Hellbats got dropped in. Like, it's just nothing really went Time's way. I don't even think his build was bad. I thought a lot of it seemed smart, a lot of it seemed clever. Just when it came down to the execution, he just completely fell apart.
Actually, you know, on that note of the early game drone damage, I actually feel like Serral and Raynor are 2 players that if they lose 20 drones at the start of the game, I still feel like I'm like, oh, it's fine.
They are that good. They are that good. And then consider he didn't do it.
I feel like every time I see Serral or Raynor lose like 20 drones at the start of the game, they still get back up to 90 within at least 15 minutes. Like, it does not take very long at all for them to get up to that. Well, did I say 15 minutes? I meant like 10. They just get back up to that, to 80, 90 drone economy, and just manage to somehow get away with stuff that does not seem likely. This is one of those don't try this at home kids situations where if you lose 20 drones and you're playing ladder, don't try and be super greedy afterwards like Serral and like Raynor, because you very likely won't get away with it. But this guy in the bottom right, he certainly does. From NC Sports, the Finnish phenom, he is Serral.
And his opponent in the Northwest, the red Terran player, he is Time. I see that lightning bolt next to his base, Maynard, and I'm like, he might need to enter the Speed Force if he wants to get the power he needs to win this one, because you hit the nail on the head too with the upgrades, right? It's like you have everything you need. You've got Blue Flame, Hellbats to deal with the Masslings, a ton of mines well spread out. This barracks is some sort of avant-garde graffiti, I guess.
I believe this is a Salvador Dali painting, where it's we're entering to surrealism territory here, modern art, and maybe a Pollock. Just sort of he's on the ceiling on sort of hanging off the rafters, just dripping barracks onto the canvas. Where does it land? No one knows. I mean, this is a very weird barracks here from Time, just to talk about it seriously for a second, because it is kind of in the Overlord's path anyway.
Well, he wants to kill the Overlord.
Yeah,
right? That's the only reason you do this. But it is still, I mean, regardless of how brilliant the idea behind it may be, it's still funny to see. The other side benefit to this is, I mean, ideally he's going to build probably 2 Marines, would be my guess, maybe a 3rd, depending on where the Overlords are. But
oh, mate, you got one job.
The benefit of this is supposed to be that because the barracks is out front, if he tries to hide in one of those free Zerg Overlord hiding spots that exists everywhere for whatever reason, he can lift the barracks and kill the Overlord anyway. So,
yep,
there you go.
So guarantee your first Overlord kill here, which is fantastic. The one little downside here from Time is that you don't get the reactor and the factory up, but it doesn't really matter because he's making 2 more barracks at home anyway. So Time's going for I mean, game 1 and game 2,
I don't know what I'm looking at.
This is like almost a TVP. It's almost a TVP build, Nate, like a 3 racks, but he's going for something a little bit strange here. Very like some kind of bio timing attack, I guess.
I'm pretty sure openings like this is literally why the Baneling bust exists. Because back in the old days when I was still 17 and this game was coming out, you had every Terran player, right? It was like 1 Rax, gasless expand, then you build 2 more racks, and then 7 Banelings blow up your depot wall and kill everything with mass laying because you just don't have anything to defend. But it's a different day and age. Zergs don't really do that. Is Serral gonna do something like a reactionary build like that? No, I don't think so. On ladder, this type of play I think is extremely risky unless you know a little bit about your opponent, or obviously Death War being a big map helps too. But only thing about this that is weird is with the 1 gas, like your factory is going to come in pretty late relative to stim. Like medevacs are still like we're going to be waiting a little bit before we've got those out. Has the factory even started yet? No, 3rd command center first. So there you have it. He's just going to have a bunch of Marines with stim that won't want to stim.
Yeah, this is actually a very old TVP attack timing that he's trying to use in a TVZ against Serral, and I actually love that. I am 100% champion of this. I love this. Get weird, man. This is how you beat Serral. You get strange.
And Serral's doing is this Roach memes? So having a bunch of stim Marines will actually not be bad against that.
This is great for Time.
Without combat shield, when the Marines stim, I think the Roaches are going to 2-shot them. So it's not like a set in stone thing. You definitely would want to have a bunker still, despite all of that, because then all of your Marines don't die during the fight, and you can kind of stutter step behind it if you want. But with the number of Lings that are going to come behind this, it comes back to what I was saying. Like the stim without support for it makes me nervous. The factory's about to finish, but. It's actually, when people were doing this build 10 years ago, Maynard, they went combat shield first, and they did it for a reason. The fact that these Marines are out right now, I think this game is over. Oh my God.
Oh, it hurts. It hurts, but it's also hilarious at the same time. So I don't know where I want to land it. Like, oh, poor Time, man. He moved out at exactly the wrong time for a 3 racks attack, and Serral's about to knock on his front door with a bunch of Roaches. These Lings are going to get in. In fact, he could just let the Lings do their thing and bring the Roaches back home.
He brought the Roaches back. Because he's like, oh, he's moving some units out there. And this, weirdly enough, may actually be the... I think if he had actually forced everything, and he easily kills everything in the natural and probably makes his way into the main. Because like I said, in this situation, if you don't have medevac, he's landing the 3rd command center. You greedy. Okay, well, yeah. I was gonna say without the medevacs, every stim is just permanently 20% of the hit points on your unit's gone, and then the Roaches and Ravagers are gonna 2-tap your Marines.
Well, here comes those 2-taps. There's a lot of Ravages here from Serral, and looks like about 6 of them here on the right side with Lings on the river. Going to be able to bile down that wall in there, so that's going to go down. This 3rd base needs to go back to the main. Time's not going to be able to secure that. Oh, this is also supply blocking pretty heavily here as these depots get burned down.
Yeah. He's supply blocked to the Shadow Realm, Maynard.
That's right.
He's not building any more units until all these SCVs die. That'll free up some supply.
I mean, Stim Marines with Medevac's generally going to be something that you want against a Ravager heavy force. And Time, while he's lost a lot of SCVs, is pushing this back. And Serral's going to tap here as he just doesn't have drones behind it. And that was one of the weirdest games of StarCraft that I've seen in recent memory.
I think he just saw with the third command center. He didn't want to risk it. I don't know. I feel like that might have been a little early, but whatever. We're going to take a quick break. When we return, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be jumping into game numero 3. We'll see you soon. Guten Tag, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the DreamHack Masters StarCraft. We're at the season finals. It's your boy Nate, your boy Maynard. We're hanging out, talking about some video games, some of our favorite stuff out here, and a very, very awkward game number 2 that we just finished up. Where we were looking at this, and I'm like, none of this seems like it should work for Time. But then somehow all the Marines walk halfway across the map with no support, and then they're able to walk back without getting jumped. And 30 Marines with Stim, you don't really need SCVs anymore. I think the reason Serral, we were talking about this, but Serral probably recognizing that the counterattack there just might not have been able to get enough to defend it without sacrificing the ability to make workers, right? So a tough draw either way. Why don't you go and introduce our first player for us, Maynard?
It would be my pleasure, Nate, to introduce in the top left here, number 1 in China, getting a point on the board from Kaiser Gaming. This is Time.
And his opponent in the southeast position, the Ravager man from game 2. He is Ence's Serral.
So yeah, we were talking about that game and just breaking it down in the break there, sort of being like, that felt like maybe a bit of an early tap from Serral, especially considering, you know, I could see people leaving that game on ladder, and I thought maybe in a tournament you try and fight back even though you're not feeling comfortable about your position. But when you look at what time had left after that attack from Serral, yes, Serral was up in drones, yes, he had 3 hatcheries, but you don't really know about the lava situation, and also, is he going to be able to get up an army that's big enough to stop that many Marines with those medevacs to support them, with Marines about to have 1-1 upgrades as well. Like it's kind of it felt like a tough ask from Serral, a pretty tough call to defend the counterattack from time, which almost certainly would have happened immediately after those Ravagers were killed. So not a super crazy tap from Serral, all things considered.
Yeah, and I mean, when it comes to Serral, one of the things that we always bring up, I mean, I literally bring this up every time I cast him, but he's tendency to now throw the cheese in every once in a while is something that I do really like, and I think that it has made him a much more dangerous opponent. But at the same time, when you're willing to roll the dice, you have to accept sometimes you're gonna get snake eyes. You know, you're gonna end up hedging those bets on a big push, and it's not gonna pay off, and that's okay, because that's how you keep your opponents honest, right? You don't want to be that guy that when you get matched up, someone's like, oh yeah, they literally do this every single game. I could be, you know, stupid greedy, right? And in a way, Time was very greedy in that game. I mean, he built his barracks out front, lifted it to get the Overlord kill, went straight into 3 racks bio, and Serral just, despite the fact that it was such a greedy build, I don't know, maybe that's something that another player will bust out again in the near future if they don't think that they're going to be hit with, you know, like Ling Bane, I guess. And even then, I'm not sure, because he had a lot of Marines and a pretty quick 3rd command center. So I don't hate it. I actually don't hate what Time did there at all. In fact, I quite like it as someone who likes to open with Marines to try and kill Overlords myself. It's one of those things that when you're watching this, I don't know, maybe it's not as bad versus the cheesy type plays as we were talking about. Still wouldn't have minded a bunker, personally, but that's just me. Either way, really, really clever build that Time pulled out. He was able to be greedy and have a ton of units to defend. We're going to go into something a little bit more normal for this game and on Romanticide, but I think that makes sense. Romanticide is a really good map for, I think, straight up play.
I mean, CC first is a little crazy from Time, which he did go for here. The barracks to go up next. And it is into Stim with the Reactor Terran. So, I mean, apart from the CC first, it is pretty normal. And I guess also the Stim being a little bit earlier here is also kind of untoward. Is normally the starport switched over with the tech lab, right? And you're just heading towards something a little bit different as the Terran, and then getting your tech lab on the barracks a little bit later, prioritizing usually a bit more Hellions out in the map. But this is you know, a little bit of a different series from Time, which I like. I like that he's doing something that you don't see every day. It's going to be something that Serral hasn't had a ton of practice against. Of course, is still Serral, so his reactions and his responses to Time are pretty solid for the most part. Overlord coming on in here, sees the Vikings, sees the Marines. So at the moment, Serral doesn't have a ton of information, and that definitely is a bonus for Time. He's getting a very quick medevac after that Viking.
Yeah, I really like the Viking opening there, now going into Hellbats, but I mean, honestly, I don't think that command center first is super punishable by Zerg. Like, I don't see it as something that's like a crazy risky play, unless maybe you're against like Bly, but it is one of those things where Time is just, as you said, he's just mixing it up really nicely. He's shown a different look every single game, and this time around it's going to be a Hellbat push with you talking about that early Stim Maynard. Now we know why, because it's not just that Viking. The follow-up here is he's going to bring a few of these Marines, and you're gonna be like, oh, there's only like 4 Marines there, Nathanius. Yes, well, they're gonna have Stim, so it's a completely different beast, as we all know.
That's right. The Submarine's going to have a bit more DPS, a bit more mobility here, and there aren't that many Banelings for Serral just yet. He's got 4 morphing here on the front line. Oh my god. Yeah, okay, they got some connections there on the front. There's going to be some juggling from Time, but the medevac goes down, and yeah, looks like Queen's going to be able to seal this deal.
You know, you could see the thought process, right? Like he was like, oh, he's morphing Banelings. I'll just move my Hellbats over and cancel all of them with 1 attack. And that's the exact same frame that Banelings finished. And your Hellbats all die, tries to lift one up, Medevac gets sniped with said Hellbat inside of it. And suddenly it's looking like a little bit of a train wreck. So Time, at the very least, still has a good setup back home. The third command center is ready to rock and roll. Going to turn into an orbital now, get the 1-1. But Serral's timing on the things that really matter, Maynard, is still one of the other things that impresses me, because despite a maybe late upgrade, sure, he's got all the tech, right? Baneling speed coming in. He's going to have everything else rolling along soon. And if the Hellions don't find some purchase and can't maybe even delay the creep a little bit more, then you just start to feel nervous. There's the Spire booting up as well. But with Banelings and speed, and if you have your creep spread moving, there's not really a whole lot else you need to defend until you get those mutas out, and then they can kind of deal with everything else that's up in the air.
Liberator coming on in here for a little bit of harassment, going to deny some mining from a few of these patches. The Hellions looking for an angle, but the Queens, they're angry. Don't you touch my babies, they say to those Hellions as they escort them off the premises. Liberator's kind of stuck in limbo as well, just doing some incredible anti-air damage to that Overlord. The Ling of Serral also comes in and gets a look at the SCV count at the third base of Time, and also that it's there in general. So Serral's got himself a little bit of information. His creep spread's starting to sort of blanket out into the popular attack paths of the Terran. There is a lovely tank position here on Romanticide. Oh, the Liberator zigs when it should have zagged right over those Queens, again getting revenge for their babies.
That is painful, but you're right though. There's some decent opportunities that you can try to jump on with tanks here, even with some of the weird mine placements, because there's some, the high ground in the center of the map. I was going to ask your thoughts on. I like that he's working on the rocks. Feels maybe a smidge late, but those minerals outside where he's building the fourth base now is something that I'm always curious about, because a lot of Zerg players open these up so you can't put a tank on one side of it, right? And then just drop Marines on the other and force you to go all the way around. But Banelings with speed are going to come push this back. Wouldn't mind not getting a big money hit. But yeah, dude, how do you feel about that? He's starting to open it up.
Yeah. I mean, I do like that he's opening up. I do think that needs to be covered, because that is taking away one of the powerful spots for Terran on this map. I think so far, Serral's doing everything right on paper. He's just getting towards that fact where he's just like, unlike Raynor, he's not really going to be throwing a lot of Lings at the Terran. He's not going to check in with his ground units. He's just waiting for the air units, really, while defending on creep with Ling Bane. And I think that's going to be, obviously execution matters, but as long as he's not taking huge losses to Widowmines and he's not being hugely inefficient, like in some of those games against Clem, I think he's going to be sitting pretty here. Even the Ling's breaking off from the pack to chase down these Marines in the bottom left. Not nearly enough Marines to get that damage there. The Overseer and the Queen taking one for the team there. The Widowmines have fired their shot, and now the Baneling's feeling safe to chase these Marines back. But, there's that Widowmine that you don't want to see as a Zerg. Right into the Banelings.
Yeah, mutas are coming in now to that main base, getting their poke on. Attack the refinery. Muta shot bounces to the SCVs. SCVs die. You can't explain that. Maynard's going to have to rebuild it. Marines are going to have to stim around, running, chasing, trying to snag these. But one of the other nice things about Romanticide, and we typically talk about this as a Terran feature, but there's a decent amount of airspace, a couple pockets to hide in. The mutas don't want to hide though, so he'll bleed one or two out on the way back to the map. And that creep spread needs to get replenished. But as long as you've got speed Banes on creep, pretty much anything is possible with the defense. And we know that Serral, like Raynor, will use a tremendous amount of Zerglings. This isn't like, oh yeah, I just need 15 Lings and 20 Banes. Like, no, I need 50 Lings and 20 Banes. And then you're almost never going to get those opportunities to get the target fire down that Terran players made look so cash money before. But those mines, hey, decent little chunk play.
Yep, good chunk of Baneling damage, good chunk of Ling damage there in the middle of the map in that sort of the brush there, the dangerous tall grass. Marines coming on in, get some active tumors here. Queen's pulling back, and Serral just kind of playing tug of war here with the Terran army on the outskirts. Baneling's connecting to the Marines at the front line, forcing a lift up from Time. The Mutas not in a hugely scary number. They're going to join up with the Lings on the ground, but these Widowmines, Serral needs to respect those, and I mean, he definitely needs to respect that big ball of pyro down there with a Thor to assist. It's about to have 2-2 upgrades as well, that ball of bio, and Serral, as most Zergs would be at this point, are going to be down 2 upgrades here. Terran's got 2-2 a little bit quicker. This is very normal for Terran. Does he do something with it? He's going to just use Medivacs here. Time being very patient with his ground army. Now moving out here, so trying to do something in 2 spots at once. I like this.
Yeah, and we've got Thor as well to anchor this, which, as we know, if you can get a bunch of the Banelings to crash into that, that's going to be nice for you. They tune the damage that they do to the armored units. So if you can have it be the buffer, that's always going to be great. These Marines, though, immediately caught in the southwest, so trying to get that multi-prong going has not been easy. And if you're Time, you might be looking at this and asking yourself, how the hell does he have 2 armies?
Yeah, this isn't supposed to work out. You know, how does the Zerg is not meant to be able to split up these many forces. The Mutas aren't meant to be all the way out over here while I'm having a tough time pushing on creep. But Serral is making it work so far. The Muta's going to swing over into the natural here. That is a scary flock of Mutas now. And there's only one turret, so that's not going to cut the mustard here. Going to be able to burn that down, of course, is going to take some anti-air damage. Oh, actually, just the mass repair from Time does keep it up for now.
Just barely not enough. Just barely not enough Mutas, huh? Yeah, that's actually a bit of an uncharacteristic miscalculation on the part of Serral. When you go in for the dive on the turret like that, you can still kill a lot of SCVs with the bounce shots, so I don't think you have to kill it. But, I mean, I think you certainly should hope that you have enough to kill it, because then you just get to kill everything at that base, right? You don't want to actually bleed 3 or 4 Mutas just to get like 5 or 6 SCVs. You want to kill the turret and get all the SCVs.
Feels like if Serral uses all these Banes and busts this planetary, that's going to be a lovely pickoff. But I get a little bit worried. Oh, you know what? The Baneling count isn't super high for Serral anymore after using those Banelings aggressively. But Time did pull his whole army back, so he's not going to capitalize on the fact that there's not that many Banes at home for the Zerg. And I really feel like if Time was committing with that army, if he went for a push while also holding on the planetary, these Banes wouldn't have been there. Like, these are all being morphed because Time gave Serral some space. A potential for a mistake from Time. And then with the planetary being busted, that does still suck. It did cost a lot of resources for Serral to get that, though.
Yeah, the fact that our awesome observer, Nyal's showing us, I think, just a crazy amount of Banelings that Serral still had at home. He was like, yeah, I'm sure you're going to counterattack me if you feel pressured to do so, and that's when I'm going to try and win the game with big Bane Crush on this. There's still a decent amount of mines, though. 2 Thors soak up a lot of the firepower, and there's still Marines off creep. Maynard, if Marines are left over at the end of the day and the Banelings are dead, this gets out of control really quickly. But the Mutalisk counterattack on the 13 SCVs get picked off. Now it really is just the Thors trying to survive on their own, and they will not be able to do so. The Mutts, they will flap their wings into the main and killing another couple of SCVs. It's going from bad to worse now for our Chinese Terran player.
It looks like these Mutas are still going to take a lot of hits. Obviously, a few of them have died, but they've killed 15 SCVs. And the most important thing here for Serral, I feel, is that he does still have a lot of Lings and a lot of Banelings. And while he does have Hive, obviously, he's still very much leaning on the tier 2 units. He's got +3 Carapace on the way. His Lings are pretty nicely upgraded. His command center getting burned down by the Mutas. A lovely catch there from Serral. He just exacerbates his lead here as he really has money to spend for days here against the Terran. Once again, down 30 workers, very similar to game 1, and finding it very hard to get a footing back in this game. And I was about to wonder, where's +3 attack? Where's Adrenal? There it is from Serral. He is living large and looking in charge right now.
Yeah, once Serral gets that Adrenal Glands upgrade, and then the 3/3, you're like, oh yeah, this, Time just needs to wait till he has the upgrade advantage. It's like, that has not been the problem in this series for him. The upgrades have been there, but it is just so hard to deal with the counterattacks while you're trying to push out, while you're trying to get damage done. Zerg player spreads the creep, does a great job of defending. They take multiple extra bases over the Terran. This is how StarCraft is supposed to be played, and Zerg leverages that economy by having a lot of units to defend, but also, as we've seen a few times, a lot of resources to put into those Mutalisks and the Banelings for some devastating counters that have happened multiple times in this game and series already.
Time scans top right and sees, oh god, this Zerg really has the map. I need to start doing some damage to the infrastructure here. The clock is ticking for him, unfortunately, as is his namesake, as Serral is starting to spiral out of control. No doubt he's been throwing a lot of resources away. The Banelings have been finding some Marines here, but those are resources that Serral can afford, and Time losing things like a Bola Bio, losing a medevac full of units is not really something that's super comfortable for him to replenish. He does still have a bit of a bank, but Serral's starting to amass a lovely mineral count here as his gas gets a little bit higher. Medevac's getting cleaned up off the map. Big Widow Mine there on the Ling count, though. A good connection for Time. He's going to need a few more of those, though, to start evening things up.
Yeah, I was going to say 40 more Lings are on the way. The Mutalisks are... Okay, it looked like they were going to just go by. Now they realize that everything else is still here. And yeah, it's just such a struggle because you're just trying to fight back this constantly spreading, writhing Zerg mass, and your drops are getting cleaned up. The Mutalisks are every which way, and then the creep starts to spread towards the outside of your base, and it starts to feel like one of those, humans find a spaceship that's derelict out there, Maynard, and they're like, oh my god, it's just starting to consume, just eats everybody. And Yeah, and then when you lose a ZVT, you become infested. That's I'm pretty sure that's the canonical result of losing any Terran versus Zerg. Yeah. So
the problem with this particular game for Time though is that it's not only is it the movie series Alien, but it's also mixed in with the movie Event Horizon. There is a portal to hell inside of the spaceship that he's found out there in space, and there is just no saving himself. There is no happy ending here. The Banelings are rolling into this third base, and this is again stuff that a Serral can afford to throw away. A lot of Marines getting killed there. Time's army supply taking a good chunk down there. Oh man, he's down 30 army supply against the Zerg, who still is keeping on those tier 3 upgrades. Chitinous is done. I mean, Serral can go into ultras here and feel pretty comfortable about it. There's not a ton of anti-ultra. Time still primarily producing Marines. Does have a handful of Marauders in production, of course. He has some anti-ultra countermeasures, but if Serral had a lot more gas bank and plenty of lava to throw away, no doubt we'd be seeing a few more of those big space cows thrown into the front line here, as they would be so effective against this fireball.
Yeah, it's not even necessary anymore, right? He's eaten the map. He's eaten the map. He's gotten tons of damage in, and whatever you want to say about Time's position, he is struggling to get that supply up. I mean, Terran players, you don't have combat units that you can build that cost more gas than minerals. So if your army is dying a lot and you can't afford to build tech stuff, that's when you see that gas count spike. And that's the symptom of Time's economic devastation that has happened in this game. Pushing up a ramp may be the most cost-effective way he can defend, but it doesn't matter if he's killing all of the workers at the third again while that's happening. Serral goes up 2-1.
A really good hold at the start there with that Hellbat Stim Marine timing, and it looked like on paper it was going to do all right, but unfortunately when up a ramp against 4 Banelings and those slow Banes got the juiciest connections, allowing Time to just really mop them up with his Queens, and really from then on, it felt like Serral just had that game. I was a little worried for Serral at one point when he was throwing away like 15 plus Banelings and a bunch of Lings at a planetary while not having a ton of Banelings back home, but with Time retreating at the south side of the map, like down around 6 o'clock there, by the time his army came back, Serral was back up to 30-odd Banelings back on creep, which is what he needed to get the, I keep trying to say something other than Time because there's a player called Time in the series, but he needed the time
He's
to get
trying
those
to
Banelings
accumulate more of the chrono resource.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
There you go.
That's right.
He's trying to slow things down, but unfortunately not able to do that. And you called it though, like the first mistake was he gets everything together for this early attack. Somehow you've only got 4 Marines with your stim research. So I don't know, there must have been some idle time on the barracks to not be able to fill that, because you as you said, he started the stim very early, right when he started the Hellion. So the starport wasn't even done yet. I think he could have had another 1 or 2. But more importantly, he tries to dive on the morphing Banelings, and they finish at literally the worst possible time. And then like half of the Hellbats all instantly died. Picked up the other one, the medevac died. So you lose your healing power. You lose half your Hellbats. That means the Zerglings can come and play. And then obviously, if you can't overwhelm the Zerglings, the Queens are going to just shoot you from over them. And things are only going to get more difficult. Oxide, good aggressive map coming up next. If Time is going to pick up another map in this series, this is definitely the one to do it. Even if he does win this one, I'm looking at Pillars of Gold as the decider, and I'm like, yeah, against Serral? TBZ against Serral and Pillars of Gold? Are you sure? Are you sure you wanted to veto Jagannatha Time? Are you sure about that? I don't know. We'll see.
We will see. We'll see. You're absolutely right. I think that if Time's going to get it done, Oxide is a good battlefield for it. I really am finding this a hard one to predict because every single game, Time has shown us something not very meta at all. He's kind of just he's got his own bag of tricks here, and this is definitely the moment to do it. You're up against one of the scariest players, if not the scariest player in the whole bracket. It's time to get crazy, time to get wild, and time to just try and get to that top 4. The guy in the bottom left here from Kaiser Gaming in the red, China's #1 Terran player, Time.
And his opponents in the Northeast leading this series 2-1. Currently, our Zerg player in blue, he is Serral.
Oh, Serral got the good riff. I like it. So yeah, I mean, I have been since game 1 looking very closely at what Time has been doing production tab wise. I mean, to be fair, our production tab is 4 whole pixels. I do believe, I'm kind of I'm lagging out our feed, guys. Just to give you a bit of a peek behind the curtain, we kind of have a clean feed of what's happening in the game. We're not in the lobbies, but I think considering one of us in the cast, and I'm not going to say who, but one of us are in the middle of nowhere. we might be lagging this one out a little bit. Proxy hatchery here from Serral. A block of the natural. Potentially something more sinister, but I'm sure this is just a delay at command center.
Isn't this the meme though? This is the new meme, right?
The new meme?
Yeah, I think this is a new meme where it's not even necessarily like an all-in thing. I think this has happened. I think this is the second or third time I've seen this in this tournament, but I don't know if it happened in GSL, but there was, yeah, people have been doing this apparently where they're just building a hatchery in the Terran natural. And I mean, I think you try to get a queen to build some creep tumors, but you don't really commit too much else. Now, Serral has also, I remember versus Clem in his series when he knocked him down to the lower bracket, I think it was, or if I'm misremembering, just one of the games in that series where he was breaking out the Ravagers in the European bracket, I think. So there's a couple of different ways that someone can spin this, but since he hasn't taken the gas, yeah, I think this is just like, it's meant to look scary. It's meant to be like this thing, but there's a reason why there's not like a huge commitment coming in against it. It's just going to be probably maybe, I don't even know if he'll build lings from it. Just wants to try to get the queen and build a creep tumor somewhere annoying, maybe, and block the base for as long as possible, which is, you know, the effect of building a 1,500 hit point building in your opponent's base.
Yeah, cost you a drone, cost you 300 minerals, and considering you're thinking a queen out of it as well, let's go for 450 minerals. That queen is going to pop out of that hatchery by the looks of things. So the whole idea here, Serral, is to drop that creep tumor, like you mentioned, Nate. Not too many scans available for the Terran at this point in the game, so just trying to delay the natural as long as possible.
Yeah, and that queen is going to pop. This is a very important moment. The Marines are definitely going to want to step out. This is why you do build some lings. The whole point is to just get a creep tumor or two here, because if there's one thing that Terran as a race in general leans on, it's very momentum based, right? You're supposed to be the attacker. You're supposed to be the aggressor. Now your early game has turned into a game of whack-a-tumor, and you're going to have to burn a scan at minimum to deal with this, unless you want to rush out a Raven, which is not as popular of a move to try and make in this matchup these days. But the Queen's like, yeah, you can kill me, and I'm going to try and just... The goal at this point for Serral should be to have 2 creep tumors in this natural that are not within 1 scan range of each other, which is also impossible because, you know, the scan radius is built on American NSA tech, so it sees everything. Now, there you go.
And thankfully, it looks like the Marines will be able to get rid of those tumors, and time will slowly be able to regain that natural. The lava also blocks a little bit there, so that's annoying. But we do have, of course, Serral on the other side of the map starting to kick into where he wants to be with that economy. He's got a Roach Warren already with ling speed, so it feels like Serral is pretty safe to anything that time could potentially throw at him on the ground here.
Yeah, so that Overlord's going to come in, and you know what? That's kind of an interesting thing, is information, I think, has been pretty important against time in this series, and Serral is known for his Overlord speed, but he feels comfortable with what he had across the map, giving him that information that he doesn't need to make that investment. And we do have some roaches coming out, but I mean, this is another fast stim build without any support for these Marines. So even if he feels like this isn't going to be a problem, if the Marines get any snowball going, it can get ugly quickly. I don't know. This is a weird type of attack to make, and yeah, it looks like time is saying, oh, is he saying anything? Is he just going to go in?
I mean, Stim is now done, so here he goes, just trying to burn through the roaches and the Queen. Some of them are streaming in, but they're coming in single file. Is there enough firepower here from Serral? So the answer is yes, or acid power, whatever you want to call it, comes out of the roach's gullet. But
they literally vomit over the Marines and dissolve them on the field, which is also just a waste of good food, honestly. The roaches should just eat them instead, right? Like, damn. I don't know. Why would you want to digest something on your living room floor when you could eat it? You know what I mean? I don't know.
How can you live for a long time being able to vomit at that rate of fire on command? That's crazy.
Yeah, it's honestly just really, really terrifying to try and actually think about how, especially the
never thought about that.
Works.
Never thought about that. And look at the range. That's projectile too. That's like, whoa. Yeah, that's a rough night right there.
You imagine if that's what your military had to do? Like, I don't know about that. I don't know. I don't even think if you could train someone to do that they would want to. I don't know. Yeah. Moving away from that awful.
Yeah, let's move on from that. Jeez, that is
that's some harrowing-ish right there. Let's talk about something else. The Marines are getting loaded up. They're going to go across the map, try to get some work done to bring this one back to equilibrium. Nee was talking about why he vetoed this map earlier against T1. He's like, hey, it's a short map. It's a small map. Like Submarine, it's on the smaller side, which is always going to favor Terran because you have, Terran, you're going to have some of the slower units. You have to kind of just run across all the time or run back to defend. And when the map is shorter, it's a lot easier to do that. So comes up forward, gets a creep tumor, but not much else. The Roaches and Ravagers are ready to rock and roll on the defensive side there. And building a third command center on location. Serral sees that. That is definitely something that you want to be careful about, because if you want to move out on the map, then the counter potential becomes a little bit more scary, I think.
Nate, I'll tell you what, this army looks all right here from time with plus one about to finish, a tank here as well as a couple Marauders. I actually could see him taking a fight against Serral's forces at the moment. Some Ravagers coming on in. Is usually a little supply inefficient against this Bio army. He does get some Bios in the tank, but does not kill it. The Lings will have to pick it off. But I don't know if there'll be enough to pick off these Marines here. Time with a lot of units. He's barreling through.
There's not enough army. There's just not enough army. He's killed 9 drones, was not an irrecoverable amount, but losing 6 overlords with it would be, and GG is called. So we're talking about making quick pushes across the map on a smaller map. Well, there you have it. Time is able to get across very quickly before Serral can set up his defense. And this one has gone down to the wire. So we're going to be right back. We'll take a quick break, and when we return, game number 5 to see who gets all the marbles in Time versus Serral.
G'day guys, welcome back to the DreamHack Winter Broadcast here. I'm Maynard, and with me is Nate. We're in the season finals, and we're now second best of 5 of the day, and we are about to be magically whisked away into Game 5 between Time and Serral. Serral actually brought down to the wire here by Time, the Dark Horse Terran. We see some scary Terrans in this bracket. People are looking at Clem, looking at TY. And Time is actually looking like he might get it done. Nate, this is actually quite dangerous here. I actually find this one very tough to call.
Yeah, it's ended up a lot closer than I anticipated. Obviously, I called our Zerg to take it 3-0, but this guy in the bottom left, he refuses to die. Will not be eaten by the aliens just yet. In the southwest, the red Terran player, he is Time.
And to the top right from ENCE Esports, the Zerg in the blue. It's Jonas Atala, aka Serral. Serral, the goat, and a mountain goat, very sure-footed. But you know what? Time has been making it very, 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 very tough for him this series. I feel like a few of the games that Time's won feel a little bit awkward, though. Like they're not clean victories. Do you know what I mean? They feel like they start off a bit wonky, and he's sort of like stumbles up in a way into a really lovely position. I mean, don't want to take anything away from him, of course. These are deserved victories. But it has felt a little bit crazy, whereas the Serral victories have felt very clean and methodical.
Yeah, it's been a down and dirty series, I think, for Time, 100%. Yeah, Serral's done some good plays. I think Time is 100% going to have to really come in with something sharp here. Pillars of Gold is one of the hardest maps to defend your third base, no matter which one you want to take. And then your fourth base from counterattacks and run-bys. There is no easy wall option for either of the thirds here. It's very wide open. There's a few good counterattack paths that will avoid the center of the map if you are Serral. And like, if I was to describe, and like from 99% of TVZs that I've seen on this map, it's a big push by the Terran. If they can't kill the Zerg, then you've got to really, really hunker down. And some of the Terran players that are good with the defensive play can make it work, but it's just, you can get punished so hard because this is also a very short map too. At least with the way that it feels with those run-bys and counters, because you have to expand towards your opponent, towards the middle of the map when you get that third base, if you want to push as a Terran.
And Time coming in here with this Reaper, having a look at that natural, of course, playing can I take any Zergling kills here? The thing that Tastos like to talk about, like, will the Reaper kill a Zergling? Hell no, he won't.
Yes. Well, you know, back in the early days when they first added this, the Reaper would usually get at least one drone, and that would be considered okay. And now if it gets any drones, you know, we're sitting here like, whoa, what's going on?
The vehicle of esports is technology, Nate, and sometimes, no, never mind. We're going to get back into this cast. It's pretty cool, actually, you know, to talk about the series as a whole here, as Time is going for a pretty regular 1-1-1 here, going for the tech lab on the barracks. See if he gets stim or not, or if he's actually going to go to switch over to the tech lab on the starport this time. At the moment, it looks very similar to game one, with Serral getting not only Overlord speed, but also Time going for the fast tech lab switch over with that starport. At least it seems that way. He is one map away from making history. Time has never, ever won a series against Serral. They played each other in the last season in group stages. Serral got the 2-1. Of course, the Asus Rog was the last time Time got to the 5th game in a best of 5 against Serral. Can he actually make the difference this time and just turn this bracket upside down with a victory over the Finnish player? I mean, that would be absolutely huge as far as StarCraft's concerned. Every broadcast of the DreamHack Winter specifically has been making waves through the community, I feel like. There's been so many upsets, been so many crazy results. Yeah, it's just really cool to see as a fan, honestly.
It has been a much less predictable bracket already than I think we've ever seen before. Just the fact that the GSL champion got 3-0, right? Couldn't take a single map off of Neeb speaks volumes to just how crazy all of this was. Clem upsetting Rainer Wright in the Europe finals, Estrella getting his first premier win over Neeb in the NA finals. It's made this tournament a lot of fun to watch because you really have no idea who the hell is going to win. And this is still very much anybody's series because Time in these scrappy situations has still been able to make it happen. Albeit in some shorter games, right? Because it was the 2 wins came off of, hey, I'm going to go fast 3 command center off of a 1 Rax opening that was put forward to kill an Overlord. that does trigger a lot of Zerg players into going for a big counterattack or a big all-in when they see the Terran open with Marines like that, expecting them to have delayed tech because of a delayed gas, right? So all of that, right, makes sense. But it's a short game where time kind of wins off of a really, honestly, in some ways, a bit of an awkward defense too, because some of his Marines were like halfway across the map and then they came back without getting caught. Like, you know, you can't really bet that your opponent won't find your units when you're against a Zerg because they spread their overlords out, creep, lings, all that jazz. And then Time's second win comes off the back of that push, right? That very early push after that hatchery meme or whatever on Oxide. And then he's now got to probably deal some serious damage to take this one too, because if it's going to go into a straight up late macro game, well, that's your 2-0 right now, or your 2-2 on the side of Serral at least.
Mm-hmm. It does seem like Serral's going for the more comfortable unit comp here, going for Ling Bane muted, double Banshee on the left side, looking for any damage, trying to look for an opening for these Hellions. And the Baneling's really shepherding the natural there and keeping those Hellions at bay along with the Queens. Time just going to have to make do with some creep tumor damage. Consolation prize here for these Hellions. Because they're not going to get any drones, at least not just yet.
Yeah, the fourth base is going to get started up for Serral as well. So he's ready to ramp this game up economically and say, hey, you're going to have to hit me hard. And the Banshees are still alive, which is nice. I think if he leaves them on where that third command center is going, I actually like how fast he's going to try and land that, because at least the Banshees can, with two of them, will be able to deal with a little bit of lings if something backstabs him. And you got to try to get the damage done with this drop. Is he going to go for the low ground play by outside the main? Well, there's already that base there. So he's going to try to deny the fourth. And the Baneling speed is pretty far off. He's got a lot. This would be a great pickup for Time.
Certainly. The tank just out of range. Oh, that was a decent Baneling connection there. But again, Serral's second wave to actually force this back. Can't actually see it coming down. So if only the tank was a little bit closer there for Time, maybe he would have gotten it. He's bringing the tank forward now, kind of leaving it exposed. The Ling's hitting us around, boosting the medevac to save it, but a little bit of a miscontrol there from Time. An uncharacteristic one at that, as normally his control is, one of his stronger suits.
That's definitely, man, you called it perfectly though, right? The Banelings got at least one hit on the soft underbelly of the Marines. And, maybe the tank backing up 5 Hellions seems cool, but you're not killing a hatchery. Hellions don't kill buildings. That's not really, unless we're talking about euthermal on Frost against, well, I don't know, which Protoss did he kill with like 60 Hellions 5 years ago? We have to open the ancient texts, right? We need to set the compatibility mode for our operating system to even look at those replays. In fact, I don't even think any of them work anymore. That's how old and ancient they are. So
yeah, we need Windows 95 on one of those old PCs. The game will be in 4x3.
So now the fourth base is done. There's more pressure to get damage on this base, but we've got a lot of Banelings this time around. The Mutas are backstabbing. Somehow they're just on top of all the SCVs in the main while this is happening. And he's got a ton of Banelings with speed ready. He didn't have those last time. The only thing here that doesn't seem contested is the Banshees on an extractor, but that doesn't really strike me as the biggest deal. Turrets denied too.
Yeah, Time just seems to be caught with his pants down against these Mutalisks. They've killed turrets. They've done SCV damage, 14 of, and they're still alive. The Baneling's streaming in to get rid of these medevacs, or at least get rid of the Marines from the medevacs. Banshee's still being annoying, but they get picked off by the Queens, and it feels like Time is losing a little bit too much here. It's almost like he's sort of almost given up. Like a lot of these really important units are getting picked off very quickly and very easily by Serral.
And it's turned into a massive supply lead now. Up 30 army supply, up 30 worker supply almost. It looks like he's got a great balance of things working in his favor. A ton of Zerglings are pouring out with this army, and I'm not sure the AoE is really there to deal with all of it. It's nice to have some of the Hellions, I suppose. It'll be hard to attack into this, but the harass option is still going to be there. Mutas are actually still chasing a little bit over here on these Marines, which I do find quite unusual, you could say. But hey, he's also done a good job kind of building a bunch of his infrastructure around that third, the run bys and whatnot we were talking about earlier. It's not as open as it might usually be.
Serral's going to be active with his army here, of course, when there's nothing to fight. Get that army working on the map as a Zerg. You want to break down those rocks, open up as many avenues as possible. The Muta's going out on the map again, and Time is kind of just chilling at the moment. Oh, good catch, though. Looks like he got 2 or 3 Mutas there. As the Lings come in to try and get some revenge, Time stims back to the safety of these tanks into the Hellions. Ejects Serral from the premises once more. Now, He is threatening with a drop here on the left side, as, or rather threatening with a few cluster of bio units on the left side as he's joining up with these tanks for a committed assault to the right. Now he's going to go try and cut through the lack of creep here and get anywhere near the infrastructure reserve. Can get anywhere near a hatchery. It's going to be fantastic. Serral backstabbing with his lings, time with the wall off, going to protect that natural. Third is a little exposed, and once again, time bringing a ton of his units back home to try and handle with a ling muta run by. He is, at least at this moment, allowing a few units to continue the advance on the right side of the map.
As long as these mutas are able to run around the base like this and bring this pressure, and you can get like zerglings in there, there's just the opportunity to actually try and go and make a decisive strike against Serral it's just going to be slipping out of his hands, right? Like every moment that Serral can bring that army back and pull it all the way back home it's just burying, right? He's digging the hole. And we were talking about this on Romanticide, and I think you said it perfectly. It's just like, well, if he runs everything back, that's just another giant wave of banelings that's going to be ready for the next attack. And 3 siege tanks are here, but there's not really a lot of Marines at the front. They are staggered quite far back. Excuse me, there is a 4th tank as well. So this is everything for the Terran. Time absolutely has to clear. Honestly, he's going to have to kill this whole army and get onto the base if he wants to win this. The banelings come crashing down, though. Maynard, the bio splits. Couple of tanks are still alive, though. A lot of Marines are still ready to gun. But yeah, the worker count's dying back home. That 3rd base is completely dead.
Certainly. I mean, we're looking at the army supply, and it looks like maybe 10 of it is over there, or 15 of it is over there, just killing the 3rd base, making this as all in as possible for time. And he is 100% committed to this push. This needs to kill Serral, or at least cripple him desperately so that he can get it back into a macro game. And the muta's coming in along with the banelings. The lane's coming back from the 3rd to get rid of these Marines, and they have nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. And Serral